So, the film, let me tell you what Twister is about. When a freak hurricane swamps Los Angeles, nature's deadliest killer rules sea, land, and air as thousands of sharks terrorize the waterlogged populace. That's Sharknado. It's here,
Cool.
baby. I knew it was a matter of time. We're going to rope it in. Sharknado. Yeah, Tara Reid, I'm looking at you.
Cool.
Do you know there's 6 Sharknado films? 6.
Oh.
6 films about
That's so
Sharknado.
many.
About
That's
that
so
once in a
many.
lifetime, absolutely absurd occurrence that is impossible happens 6 times in the lore of Sharknado world.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
yeah. Anyone who doesn't know what Sharknado is, I don't know what you're doing. I watched the first one, and it was fun.
I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. I have
It's
heard
super
of it.
silly. It's super silly. It's very clearly not taking itself seriously, and that's fun. Like, it doesn't need to be science. It's like,
Yeah.
what is it? Like, I remember when it first came out, I was like, and this was from 2013. I was like, imagine pitching this. Like, oh, disaster movie, tornado, and there's sharks. And people were like, yes, money. Here we go. Sci-fi was like 100% funded. I'm here for it. And that's how it happened. And now there's 6
I think
of
that's
them.
the key, Gabe, that we've been missing is you just gotta really just go in as absurd as possible, yet simplistic.
Yeah.
Absurd
We
and
keep trying to
simplistic.
like say
Say
things
stuff?
with our
Yeah.
work. We keep trying to be political. We're trying to inspire and motivate a population. But really what we got to do is just put 2 crazy things together and just have a wacky time.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Spiders plus earthquakes. They paid money
Plus
for that.
fire breathing. Don't forget.
Yeah. You need to add that in. It's
Yeah.
important.
Avalanche plus sharks.
Yeah.
Don't ask us how it works. It just does, okay? Figure it out. Or you
Yeah.
can do it seriously, like Crawl, which is actually really scary. So,
Tornadoes plus aliens. Option.
Why not? Yeah, that is
We
option.
could do it.
Yeah, sharks in space. Just throwing it out.
It seems promising,
sharks
you
could
know.
be.
It really just seems like a really solid A1 idea.
Yeah,
I think we
sci-fi.
should do it.
Hire us. Okay, cool. Excellent. But Twister, which we actually watched, and it is from 1996. I was 5 years old. I was a baby.
Nice.
Bill and Joe Harding, advanced storm chasers on the brink of divorce, must join together to create an advanced weather alert system by putting themselves in the crosshairs of extremely violent tornadoes, as you do. Directed by Jean Debont. I hope
Nice.
I'm saying your name right. And it's not just like Jan Debont, which is also appropriate. Could be that. Like I said, I was afraid of Twister when I was younger because it is scary. There was a ride at Universal Studios. It's most likely not there anymore because it's all changed. But it was a Twister ride, and I refused to go in because I was afraid of it. And my mom was like, you just went on Jaws. Like, why? How can you go on Jaws, which is scary because the shark does get you, and then not be in this Twister ride? So she forced me to go to this Twister thing, and it was really boring. It was just winds. They just blew winds, and then you saw the cow flag. And I was
Okay.
like, cool. I was like, wow, I'm so disappointed that that's what that was.
The
Let's go on
potential
ET
that
again.
exists is that they could have just put you in a thing that spins you real fast and like had things look like they're about to hit you.
Yeah, they could
But
put
I
one
think-
of those, like, where you're,
Yeah.
like, sucked against the wall.
Yes, that would be perfect. If
Yeah.
anything, that is the real tornado ride. Is
Yeah,
where
I
you're
think
stuck to the
they
wall.
had us, like, be attached to the bar the way they are at the end where they have the belt, and then the wind was coming at you, so it was like, could you survive? And it was like, no, you can't. You can't. It's not real. I also really loved The Wizard of Oz. I watched it every time it was on TV. My mom would force me to watch it, and I love The Wiz, and I love Wicked, the book and the musical. I'm
Yeah.
all about it, but I really don't know a lot about tornadoes. Like I said, mostly about hurricanes. And so I learned some things by
Nice.
watching this film and also doing some research for my section. So we're actually going to ask those specific questions that we're trying to get to the bottom of in this series. And the first one being, does it accurately represent the horrors of a natural disaster? And so when I was watching this film, and the credits were about to start, I was like waiting for that title screen that says based on a true story, and that like
Yeah,
Dorothy,
same.
the device in the film, is like a real thing, and that scientists are finally able to help predict tornadoes. But there isn't there isn't a title screen
Nope.
like that, and I was like, oh no. But according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, they have an article titled NOAA Tornado Scientists Inspired Twister Creators 20 Years Ago. And are saying that it might actually be real. So, in an effort to collect weather data from inside a tornado, NOAA researchers created the two-table tornado observatory called Toto, which is named after Dorothy's little dog from the movie The Wizard of Oz, and it's Dorothy in the thing. And during the 1970s and 80s, several groups from NSSL, which you're going to cover in your section, and the University of Oklahoma tried to deploy Toto, but never scored a direct hit. So they also say that Toto was retired in 1987, but not before it inspired screenwriters Michael Crichton and Anne Marie Martin to develop a story around a similar device. And so in this film, we have Dorothy, that is this device, I'll put up a picture, that houses hundreds of these little sensors that ideally would be released within a tornado. And the whole film is about them chasing the tornadoes in an attempt to get Dorothy in the right place at the right time, to get gobbled up by the tornado, and distribute all the sensors to gather information about its behavior so that they can helpfully be able to predict it easier and prevent massive destruction, because they can then have people evacuate sooner, which is lovely. And that's similar to the device, which is Toto. Furthermore, the film went above and beyond to be as close to scientifically accurate, while still being entertaining and fun, by incorporating real scientists in the script design. So they consulted with them. And in that same NOAA article, they say to make sure their script was as realistic as possible, the screenwriters, along with producers Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy, consulted with scientists from the NOAA National Severe Storms Laboratory in Norman, Oklahoma. Several actors, especially Bill Paxton, spent a lot of time at NSSL to get a feel for the coordination needed to be successful in tornado experiments. Actual tornado researchers took many of the actors out on a real tornado chase. So they were on the ground, they were put us in danger willingly, and we're going to do this. And so if you're like me and you're wondering if Dorothy and Toto worked, or if things work now because of them paving the way. Currently, scientists continue to study tornadoes using different technology to improve prediction and ultimately save lives. These days, they have smaller devices that are easier to deploy in large numbers into the tornadoes, and have actually successfully collected a wealth of data for this purpose.
Nice.
So it's it did help. It's still not as it's not the big answer, right? We're not now we can predict them 10 minutes away. A lot of the things are still up in the air. There's a lot of inaccuracies in the film. They took quite a few liberties. There's mention of he's the sky's going green, and that's not an implication of anything. It doesn't do that. And also you can't tell the power of a tornado by looking at it. It's actually the way that they predict, can tell you what category it is after it's already hit lands. So it's not it could be an incoming F4. That's not real. So there's even though they got a lot right, there's still a bit that was dramatized for excitement. And so in an article on Screen Rant called "Is Twister a True Story? How Accurate the Movie Is to Real Storm Chasing" by Kara Hidash, they explain that the film took some liberties with our abilities to predict the specific natural disaster, saying the warning in the opening scene mentioned the possibility of an F5 tornado on the way, which is when the big tornado hits Joe's home when she's a child. And that happens in 1969. So they're saying the strength and winds speed can't be confirmed until after the tornado makes landfall, and their ranking on the Fujita scale is determined by the amount of damage and track of destruction. So not anything that we can see ahead of time.
See in real time.
Yeah. And however, the biggest problem is with the opening scene, it was the fact that it took place in 1969, and the Fujita scale wasn't invented until 1971. Because, like, the dad is, like, running out of the house, and he's like, the news said it's going to be an F5. We got to get to the thing. And there was this one, like, hater article that I found that was like, here's how things are wrong. And one of them was like, there's, like, the F5 winds are going crazy and everything's getting ripped off, but the dad still has his hat on. And I'm like, okay, well, just let the people live. Yeah. They also mention how the tornadoes were based on some true events, and they cite The Vane, which has an article called Here's Everything They Got Wrong and Right in the movie Twister. And they say that the final film's tornado, which took out Jonas and some of his team, which is Carrie Elwes, the competing team of researchers, was eerily similar to a tornado that hit El Reno, Oklahoma in 2013. It quickly grew to a record 2.6 miles wide before abruptly changing direction, taking many experienced storm chasers by surprise, and 3 of the chasers were tragically killed in the event. So that's a really sad event that kind of gets pushed away, sadly. Yeah. They're like, we're alive. And they didn't really do anything about the fact that people died. But it is in reference to actual things that happen. And The Vane also explains that tornadoes don't occur the way that they do in the film. It says tornado outbreaks don't usually start one day, last all night, and go straight into the next day without stopping. They explode during daytime heating and usually wane through the night, not starting up again until the following afternoon. So when Kat and I were watching it, I was like, there's been like 7 tornadoes. Like, this is like an onslaught of like unrelenting tornado until we can, and obviously it's like working on movie time. So it's like cutting out like any of the practicality of of that. So I get it, but yeah, I was like, that's scary. Like, I was definitely like, why would anyone live somewhere where there's just like tornadoes every few minutes?
Constant tornadoes.
But that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's also noted that the way the characters react during the tornadoes were inaccurate and actually not safe or recommended. For example, we see Joe and Bill take refuge under a bridge, which is super dangerous. Do not do that. And like when I was watching, I was like, this is awful. That does not look like what, and it's like right there. And they're like, oh, I'm holding on. Like, no, don't do this. Also, when one of the bigger NATOs shows up, the group like ushers all those people from the drive-in theater into that flimsy building that is just ripped to shreds, just like torn apart. It's like really scary, but it's like also very impractical for people who are supposedly scientists who know about tornadoes to just bring people into this flimsy building. So don't do that. And every time they showed a tornado and how they were like running from it or doing stuff, I was like screaming at the screen that they need to find a ditch. Because that's what my brain tells me to do from the minimal training I've had. I was like, you find a ditch, you get in it. Because then it goes over you. So Kat will talk about what you're supposed to do when you're in it. Don't follow this film, Kat, who's younger watching this and maybe learn some bad habits. But later we'll learn what you're supposed to do. And hopefully I'm correct and I'm not crazy.
I believe you're correct.
Inside the ditch. The whole time I was like, why are they doing this? They keep running into buildings that are like not good. I do like they get into that one like shed and it's just full of like tools and weapons and just like things that will hurt you, and they're just like, who lives here? Like run away from it. And I was like, that's so real. Like there's no way. The article on Screen Rant also goes on to explain how the film has ultimately affected meteorology. So not only did it inspire a new generation of those interested in science and weather, but it also led to a vast increase in enrollment for meteorology programs. John Knox from the University of Georgia once referred to the increase of enrollment as the Twister effect.
Fun.
So, similar to Japan Sinks, it's a fun medium, like it's fictional, but it is there to highlight the need for scientific discovery and helped actually with funding initiatives. Like because of this film, people realize there is a need to research twisters and tornadoes, so then they were easier to get like funding for their devices and things to be able to do that. And
That's
so
good.
It showed like the importance while also being fun. Like it's still silly, but it had a really great impact. And the real scientists who do this work appreciated the film's impact so much that when Bill Paxton died, they had a little tribute for him where they used their GPS trackers to form the letters BP for Bill Paxton. And that's nice. So sweet.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, thank you for, like, making our job, like, they made it cool to be nerds, right? Like, to have, like, like, these people. It
was more like a thrill-seeking thing that, like, it was, like, cool to want to be doing that instead of, like, you're a nerd. Go do
like,
books.
it's definitely different from, like, in The Wave where, like, he's being, like, dismissed, right? It was like, no, these are cool, like, action heroes who are doing it for the betterment of society. I want to be that. I want to be that hero, right? Like, I want to be more of a storm chaser than I would want to be person who looks at rocks. You know, like, so this is to say that even with some of the scientific liberties that are in the film, it did have a positive impact on the science community and ultimately achieved a goal similar to the one our protagonists were attempting to do, which is to help save lives from tornado destruction. And so our second question is, what is this film trying to teach us about humanity? And for me, what I really enjoyed about this film, watching it like as an older person who's not just like, ooh, big like wind, you know, like watching it for like watching its sake, I really enjoyed the motivations behind the protagonists in this film, that it was because they had experienced the horrors of tornadoes and wanted to protect others from it. And so they're actively putting their lives on the line to do so. And it was really refreshing to what I usually assume is usually like a adrenaline junkie motivated field of work like that. Like when I watch storm chasers on like History Channel or whatever, like they're always just like these dudes are like, I got a big truck, I'm gonna go chase this tornado. And it's like, no, these people are like, I don't want anyone else to lose their papa the way I did. And I mean, the group is definitely composed of like wacky, nerdy, fun people who are just like, you got to be a little unhinged to kind of do this work and get in line of danger. But you can really see their passion was to help other people. And I really appreciated that. And when they were facing demise at the drive-in, like that was supposed to be a really big tornado and they worked hard to get everyone to safety. It was not the most safe place, but the idea was there. Like they were like, we know there's this danger, we understand the severity of it, and we need to bring everybody in. Like they went out of their way to save people, right? And I think like, I also think with the how angry they were towards their rival storm chaser who sold out to big weather, showed that like they were underdogs with benevolent motives and they weren't in it for the money. Like they were like, no, we want to get Dorothy up there, and then that guy was like, money, which is like, that's real thing. Like there were people who were just doing it for that. And so I thought it was nice to have that be the villain and not the tornado, really, you know? And I really love that we have this positive representation of heroic scientists who weren't dismissed by the higher-ups. Like, their challenges were in the work itself, not an institution that diminished their needs or the severity of the situation. Like, it's refreshing after watching a series of films where many people were just simply ignored, like, they just ignored the warning signs for, like, this impending natural disaster. And this one, no one doubted that tornadoes were coming. They were like, no, that's real, and we very much need a way to predict them, and so have at it. Like, you're still like that rambunctious team of like misfits, but it wasn't really about like, oh, we don't get these resources. It was actually more about like, we just have to do the job. And I really enjoyed that. And so I feel like this film also only features the destruction of a town and potential loss of life really minimally. Like, it only is at the end, and it mostly focus on, like, these fun action sequences where our heroes are, like, you know, running and putting themselves in danger, but also getting out of it and, you know, being lovable. And then they showed us the destruction specifically to remind us of their motivations. Like, it wasn't like, look how crazy and dangerous tornadoes are. It's not, you know, gratuitous or spectacle. It was, this is reality, and to remember that they're not just like wacky storm chasers. They're real people who are affected by natural disasters, and this is why they're putting their lives in danger to help people. Yeah. So
no, you definitely see that throughout the film. Like, the motivation is definitely like wholesome in nature. It is kind of sad though that they made the villains like, they really just like, they killed them, and it was like, no one cried. Like, it was sad. Like, I was like, they need, like, sure, maybe they sold out, but
yeah, they were like rude, but they're still people. Like, they weren't evil by any means. Like, they also were still trying to put a device in there to predict tornadoes. Like, maybe for money, but they were also trying to do the thing. Like, we're on the same team.
Like, and they just are like, that sucks that they died. Oh, well, we're going to make out now. That's great.
Yeah, we're not divorced anymore. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.